what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the ASAP Afternoon Blitz, Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. I'm Chris Gonzalez, joined by Jay McLovin. How's it going, Jay?
Hey, man, it's going fantastic. As you know, man, we're all in spring training now. So, I think like everybody else, man, I'm just waiting to see, how the Astros are looking in spring training. I seen a little bit where Jordan Alvarez had a little bit of a hand issue. It looked like it's flaring up on him. Last season, he had the same damn thing with that hand, man. That hand, for some reason, tends to flare up on him every now and then. So he's missing a couple of days of batting practice. It doesn't seem to be like it's going to be a big issue going into the season. But still, man, I hate to see this hand, still being an issue that was carried from last season. But at the end of the day, man, these Astros are going to be ready to go, brother. We're going to be ready to roll. So I'm not too tripping.
Oh, yeah. I think first spring training games are the 24th, so just here in about 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, man, I'm ready for the spring training games, man. Honestly, I'm ready to kind of see what this Astro squad is going to look like. I know we got some new invitees to training camp, quite a few pitchers. Kind of curious to see what we got in the bullpen and the minors coming up. So should be pretty good. I'm really kind of curious to see how Jose Abreu is going to look in the Astros uniform. It looks like Alvarez said he has done a lot of lower leg conditioning to get ready to play that outfield a little bit better than what he has played. So, man, it should be overall, I think, a pretty good experience.
And we're also joined by the stat guy. How's it going, Dustin?
Tired.
I'll bet.
My daughter's homesick today, so I've gotten next to no sleep.
I was gonna say I've worked third shift before, and yeah, especially when you have young kids and if they're home, you don't get no sleep. my sleep pattern back then was to try to sleep while they were at school. And if I didn't get sleep,
that's what I always do. But if somebody's home, then that just does not work.
Yep. But yeah, we're talking spring training here in 3 days. We get our first games. What are you expecting out of that? Then World Baseball Classic, just a couple more weeks after that?
Spring training starts the 24th. World Baseball Classic starts the 5th. So, I mean, unlike spring trainings in the past, you're going to have, I think, more competitive games early on because usually players kind of get eased into spring training. In the first 10 to 11 games, it's more split squad games where half the roster's major league players, half the roster's minor league players, and you kind of just go through the motions up until you get to mid-March. But this year, knowing that a lot of these players are going to the World Baseball Classic, you're going to see, I think, more competitive spring games right away to get these players some work right away. And then once the WBC starts, you'll probably see more of the split squad games the rest of the way.
What's going on, Mike?
Then you got Mr. Baseball himself.
I just got a new well, it's not a new chair, but I just put a wheelie chair, like the little wheelie chairs, man. Like, hold on. Like what I'm talking about, like one of these.
Mike Hughes, man, did you seriously just go to the dump and pull that thing out? That thing got more ribs than a vinyl seat, man. Come on.
I went to my old room. It's from my old
Mike.
No, it's not new. It's this joint probably from like 2012, something like that. But I didn't know like the room was like on an angle, so I keep rolling back. I don't know.
Hey, Mike Hughes said that floor is not level. He will be all
I gotta hold on to this table.
Sorry. And then, of course, you get Frankie the Yankee down there.
Big Frank dog.
What's going on, boys? How y'all guys doing today?
Big Frank dog.
Doing pretty good. Mike, what are you expecting now of spring training starting here in the 24th? Like Dustin was saying, it's going to be a little different with the World Baseball Classic this year because you're going to have a lot of players playing in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a blast, man. I'm excited about it. A lot of my guys got invited this year, and I'm really just pumped up to touch base with them and really see what's going on for the Cubs as a whole. I won't speak for the league because I don't really care. I'm really only excited about Cubs baseball for the first time in a minute. PCA looks great. Seiya Suzuki needs to be tested for steroids because that man is jacked. I mean, he looks and that was a joke. I was kidding. No one clip it. Don't say I'm serious because that's gonna be everywhere. Mike said Seiya's on steroids. But no, he looks great. I was really excited to see, Shohei Ohtani, a guy coming from Japan, really, he didn't struggle in his first year, but it really wasn't what we saw after that season moving forward. So Seiya in year 2, I'm really excited to see what that could potentially be. He's recruiting Ohtani right now. So really excited, I'm just really excited. But there's a lot to be happy about. And yeah.
Oh, he's not just recruiting Shohei, he's recruiting other people too.
Hey,
Yeah.
I will tell you though, there are several players I've seen in spring training pictures that look like they're a little bit more jacked than what they
wait, Jay, wait, because we talked about it last night. I did see your boy. He popped up on my Instagram right after, and I was like, I mean, his tricep looked like my head, and it was crazy,
bro. It's stupid. I'm telling you, man. Look, this kid, he didn't look like this last year. He did. So I'm telling you, Mike. Could steroids be making its reappearance?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. No, I'm not.
Could the steroid era?
Mike said, I'm not going there.
I'm not saying that. But no, I'm sure.
You have to. You don't have Mike. You don't have the pictures are showing it.
That is what Jay said. What did Jay say last night? The comments of Jay McLovin are not those of the ones of the ASAP network. I did not say anybody's on steroids. I'm just saying.
Listen, you gotta say it. Look, you don't put that kind of muscle over a few months like that. You definitely do. You're doing something.
No, you definitely do.
It's hard work and dedication.
Yeah, no, I mean it really is. Like I've had my spurts where I'm big and then I'm small again, and then I'm big and then I'm small again. I'm kind of happy being small. I kind of like just hanging out.
They're probably using supplements that using legal supplements that they're.
Oh yeah, you got all types of pre-workouts now. Pre-workouts are crazy. My boy Alex, he was a tiny little gremlin when I first met him, and in a couple months, this guy is like a gorilla, and it's crazy. So yeah, pre-workout and stuff like that, it goes a very long way. And I think you really don't see it a lot in baseball because there's those conversations of what that's going to do to your body and your swing and a bunch of other things. So I think some guys kind of just try to stay within those kind of same rangings. But fuck it. If you want to be huge, be huge.
Did you? Were you? I know you.
I'm not supposed to say fuck it anymore. I'm sorry.
Mike, you can't say those kinds of words. Frankie,
I didn't mean it.
Frankie, get your boy under control, Frankie.
I didn't mean it. It's...
Mike, if you don't cut it out, bro, I'm gonna kick you out of this damn stream.
Oh,
no cussing.
Oh,
no cussing.
No. Don't kick me out.
What is wrong with you? You know that this is a new era of ASAP.
Oh, no.
Hey, listen, if you don't know that by now, Frankie is quality control, and he will let you know. Frankie's not playing around this year. He will let you know. Hey, by the way, man, I have seen where the agent is hinting that Ohtani is welcoming free agency.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It said he's earned the right to explore free agency, so it sounds like he's not going to sign no deal until after this season.
And Mike Trout was supposed to be trying to recruit him to stay there at Anaheim, but he wants to stay in freaking Anaheim or at Los Angeles or whatever they are nowadays. I can't keep track of it.
Only good thing about staying there is the weather.
Yeah, well, that's true. And they do have nice looking women down there in California. I mean, let's be honest, man. I mean, you get onto the beaches, they're everywhere.
You can find nice looking women everywhere, though.
Yeah, but California and Texas really do have and Florida, they kind of had that market cornered. No, sir. Hey, look, Texas women are hot. Check them out. I'm just saying, it's true.
And I get yelled at. That's fucking crazy. Oh, sorry, Frankie.
Hey, it don't matter how hard you try, it's going to slip out some. That's just
not. No, it's
I
a
know I said it a
sport.
couple
Hell,
times
they got
last
bodybuilding now. You got female bodybuilders, male bodybuilders. I mean, it's a sport.
Dustin doesn't believe what you're saying right now. I can see it on his face. Dustin's very upset. Dustin was excited to talk about baseball.
Well, there is a lot of things going on in baseball, and I do think we are up for a good season. I think Dustin would agree. I think there's going to be a good season coming up.
Yeah, but I don't think your guy Otani. I mean, I don't. I was talking to Dustin about it probably middle of last season when the Otani to the Cubs conversations kind of started, but I don't really think there's anything Trout could sell you on because Trout hasn't done anything in over 10 years with the Angels. So I don't see. And then you look at the farm system, and we're huge on the farm system over here, and we spend a lot of time looking at them, and they don't have more than 2 guys in the top 100 in their farm system, and I think that's something where you have to look at it and be, you've been bad for this long, and you have nothing to really show for it. There are no real prospects coming up. They do got Ben Joyce. That's my dog right there. That kid throws over 105, but I think there's just so many different conversations right now about, what their future is going to be. And it's not any better than it was when they brought in Rendon and Madden and Trout and Otani. And it's the same product every single year with a little bit of a different rotation. But I mean, it's still not a good team. So I don't think longevity, I don't think there's nothing you could sell Otani on. Because to Jay's point, Jay said California, there's great women, there's great weather, there's great everything. And okay, cool. Go to the Giants. Okay, cool. Go to the Dodgers. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go to the other 5 different teams in California if you want to stay in California that bad. And that's really, to me, where it's like, you're with the ugly redheaded stepchild right now in the Angels, and there's so many different commodities that you could go to right now in California because there's I don't even know how many baseball teams there are in California, but there's way too many. So that's really where I'm at. You can go to the Padres, you can go to the Giants, you can go to the Dodgers. All these teams are playoff teams, and it's like, they got the money in the Giants because they missed out on damn near everybody. I mean, they signed who they signed, Frankie. They signed Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa for 5 minutes, and then that ended. So they have the money to give it to Otani. They could pay him $500 million if they wanted to. So I mean, I don't see why he stays an Angel.
I don't know why either, because when I look at it like this, you got great value and then you got name brand when you go to Walmart and you buy condiments. And I look at Anaheim, I look at the Angels, Los Angeles Angels. I look at them as being one step above great value. Great value to me is like Oakland A's. Oakland A's are your great value. Generic
Oakland A's aren't even great value. You're giving the Oakland A's too much credit.
You're rating on great value.
You're giving Oakland too much credit if you're calling Oakland great value.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, they might be below. They might be below great value.
They have the A's too, right? Oakland.
Oakland A's are like Kirkland. They're the Sam's Club brand.
Yeah, I didn't even remember they were a thing. My bad. My bad.
But I like what Mike said about how if you're Mike Trout, you really can't sell Shohei too much to stay in Anaheim, because if you look at Anaheim since Mike Trout has been there, the Angels have been stuck in mediocrity for over a decade. They haven't been good enough to make the playoffs, but they haven't been bad enough to earn a top 10 draft pick to help their farm system. They're always a team that hovers right around 500 for the most part, and when they get to the draft, they're like a number 15, 16, 17 pick. So they're not getting any real impact players in the draft. They're not making the playoffs to attract more free agents to come there. So it's been a franchise that basically invested their entire life into Mike Trout, went out and spent money on Anthony Rendon and all these other pieces, but yet the results haven't shown. So what is Mike Trout going to sell Shohei on? Stay here for another decade and be stuck in mediocrity with me?
I'm really surprised that the Angels haven't done like other ball clubs and gone down, to South America or anywhere in that area, honestly, and try to tap into that area and try to get prospects that direction. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conversations about international signings, but there's a lot of teams that really have their hands really deep in it. Like the Yankees are deep in it, the White Sox, the St. Louis Cardinals. There's so many teams that are really just engraved in, the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and just everywhere else, So if the Angels were to even come in there, it would have to be a financial thing, because you really look at it and it's like, these guys aren't stupid. These guys understand that the Angels are awful. They understand, that the Yankees are probably going to come climbing at their door in like 2 weeks if they just wait it out. So, I think they just really don't do anything well. I don't think they develop well. Because to Dustin's point too, it's cool. You could say, oh, they're 500 and that's why they don't have great guys that are getting drafted. But look at Mike Trout and where he was drafted. You look at a bunch of guys in this league who don't go top 10 and could be potentially top tier players. It's all over the place. I mean, this isn't the NFL or the NBA where the first top 10 picks are probably the only thing that really matter for the most part. This is something where from rounds 1 through 20, you can get guys who could become top tier athletes. You just got to give them the opportunities and the facilities to do so. So I think it really comes down to them from top to bottom. They don't draft well. They don't develop well, because even if you don't draft well, you could develop a guy into something. You see guys all the time go somewhere else and then, have decent stints in other places. But, it's just bad from top to bottom. I think they don't put any effort into anything. And I think that's one of the bigger problems for them.
Yeah. And if you look at how bad that is, I mean, the A's are even worse. I mean, I don't even think they. I
don't talk about them. I don't. It's.
Really.
They don't exist to me. They're not real.
Hey, we can start talking about them because they've already informed Major League Baseball that they're moving to Vegas by 2025.
And I think when they go to Vegas, I think some things are going to change when they go to Vegas.
You guys think that starting the international draft is going to help more teams be able to get involved with getting some of them international players, kind of like what Mike was saying, that you have the Yankees and the White Sox that are deep into that? Do you think more teams will be able to get involved in that now that they're going to do an international draft?
I think it forces a lot of people to do it, because I don't think everybody's fully involved and fully invested in the international players. A lot of people like the homegrown. And for lack of a better word, me saying a lot of people like homegrown talent is a way of saying old white people don't like international players. But that's teams like the Oakland A's, teams like the Angels, they're stuck in their old ways of thinking that, you can just win a championship with just a couple guys. And I think that's one of the biggest things right now for me, with the international draft, is that it's going to give everybody an opportunity in so many different places. And I'll keep it a bean. I grew up here. Some Dominican guys and Puerto Ricans, I mean, they are some of the greatest athletes I've ever seen in my life at the sport, like hands down. Like, I'm not going to sit here, like everyone's talking about Dustin talked about it too, the World Baseball Classic. Everybody's screaming Team USA because they got Mike Trout, they got all these other people. Hey, the Dominican Republic
lineup's going to rake.
It's going to be a bad time. It's going to be a bad time. They have the pitching unit. They have the bats. They have the speed. They have the athleticism. They have everything. I mean, they have the swag. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, those guys just do their thing. So I'm excited to see kind of internationally, where a lot of people come from, and, not just going kind of like what Jay said, going down south. I'm excited to see more from China, Japan, and a bunch of other places, because, I don't think that gets enough look. And Ireland.
Stat guy, what do you think about the international draft?
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a long time overdue, just because when you look at the international signing period now, it's usually the same 5 to 10 teams that are going to splurge on those international free agents, and then either the rest of the league doesn't go after them and those free agents kind of sit in the international pool for another year and try their luck again, or you have situations where these players are getting signed for $10,000, $20,000 out of Puerto Rico and have to work their way up for the next 5 years versus the international draft. Every team's going to be forced to sign somebody. Every team is going to be forced to give these players the same exact amount of money coming out of the international pool. You're not going to have one guy getting signed for $3.8 million and another guy getting signed for $30,000. It's all going to be the same wage. It's all going to be the same amount of money for that international draft. So at least it gives teams that typically don't have a chance to get these international stars an opportunity to be on the level playing field.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought when the international draft came in. It kind of puts all the baseball teams on a level playing field to get the talent coming out of that area. I mean, I know the Astros forever and a day have just had their teeth into the South American ball clubs, whether it be Cuba or Dominica or Puerto Rico. I mean, you look at the Astros lineup. Look at our damn rotation. Look at our rotation. I mean,
that Texas came out, huh?
Hey, I'm serious. Hey, look at our damn rotation. I mean, our rotation is predominantly.
Look at our damn rotation. That's what he said. Golly.
No, but if you look at our rotation, it's predominantly Latino. It just is. Well, hell, look at our damn team is predominant. Hell, our catcher, our pitcher, our designated hitter, our first base. Hell, the whole damn team's freaking Latino. But I'll tell you
Stop
this.
it. Stop it. Alex
baby.
Bregman is a white
We're
boy.
champions.
Alex Bregman is the only white boy in the Astros, honestly.
I don't even think he's white. I think he's Latino by disguise.
Oh, obviously he's Latino. First, he gets surrounded by everyone else.
His first name is Alex.
I said that, Alex Bregman.
Yes.
Frankie, let me see your face, man.
Nah, I'm picking up right now as I'm doing a podcast. My house is destroyed by these freaking kids having a week off of school. It's just, honestly, it's stressful right now.
Hey, listen, as long as you're not throwing the blankets and the pillows out in the rain, you're doing okay.
No, I locked their windows, Jay, and it's hot as shit in their room. Excuse my language. God, I got to take myself out for 5 seconds. Gosh. But I locked their windows, and they're never doing that again. But I'll be right back. I need to take myself off for 5 seconds for cursing.
I just thought it was kind of funny.
As long as they're not
man, the kids are throwing the blankets and the pillows out in the rain.
As long as they're not like Chris's dogs last night running through the dang podcast and trying to rip the screen with them.
Oh man,
I feel like that's every night with Chris's dog. Chris's dog just comes in barking.
Hell, they broke one of my HDMI's on my TV when they did that. Ripped it out, so now one of my HDMI's don't work. I don't even know if my soundbar works anymore. They knocked it off the table.
That's why you don't get chihuahuas anymore. Why are you still getting chihuahuas?
Yeah, Pablo and Scrappy, I'm telling you.
Only one of them is mine, and he originally wasn't mine. He was my son's, but he turned into my dog, and they were driving me nuts yesterday. He's been good today, though. He's just laying over here.
My kids are screaming right now, and I'm ignoring them. That's the best thing to do.
You get both of them in here, they go crazy. I did. I thought the show was ending last night. I thought the camera was going.
Hey, listen, I thought your house was having an earthquake. I was like, oh man, Chris is in an earthquake. Because everything just shook left and right. It was craziest thing I've ever seen.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this baseball season. Less division matchups, and now we get to face literally everybody this entire season. Everybody gets to face everybody, and now you don't have to worry about like having to face your opponents about 6 to 8 times a year. I think it's like now 4 times you get to face each team. It's pretty good.
I agree. I think this new schedule is going to make this the season even a little more exciting because you're going to see matchups that you usually don't see.
Yeah,
and I think it actually helps with free agency too, because now you're going to have certain players that, like Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium, Wrigley Field, that might go there once in their career if it's like every 6 years. Now, if you're going there every other year, you're going to get to see all these different venues. You're going to get to see all these different fans, all these different cities more frequently. When you hit free agency, now that gives you more options on the table because you're like, I like playing here. Mm-hmm. I like going here when I was a visiting opponent. So you actually have a chance now to maybe make things a bit more interesting in free agency too.
And I think it makes a lot more sense, from a marketing standpoint. You look at it for what it is, especially like, and I'm not here to talk crap, but it's definitely tough in the NL Central around July, August, when the first go around when you play the Reds or the Cardinals or the Brewers or the Pirates, everybody wants to be there because it's the first go around. But then the other 2 times they come in the Wrigley Field, and I'm looking at the Pirates and the Reds and the Brewers. Sorry, Chris, but I look at these teams and I'm like, I'm not paying to see these guys. Like I'm not. Like it is what it is. So it's like if I get to see, Julio Rodriguez or a guy on the Astros, or if I get to see Anthony Rizzo come back in a Yankees uniform, or a bunch of other things that you look at them and you're like, these are my fan favorites. You get to see Ohtani, you get to see Mike Trout, all these other fan favorites. It's like it's a lot more fun than just seeing your teams that you're so used to. And it's like
I can't wait. I can't wait to see Dansby in a Cubs jersey.
Oh,
Yeah. I think it's pretty good for baseball.
He's got it.
Come
You
on,
don't got the
kid.
Astros jersey though. Where's the Astros jersey?
Fuck that
Yeah.
Astros jersey.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm not one to call people out.
You
But
do
I'm
it
calling
every
them
other
out.
day.
But I'm calling them out.
You do it every day. But
You know what? Because every day now for several months, I've been waiting for this bet to be fulfilled, and it is yet to be fulfilled.
I see the way you live, Jay McLovin, and I go, damn, you know what would be better than me just doing it is me giving him a purpose to wake up every single day and make it another day. Jay McLovin wants to wake up to see if today will be the day that Mike Hughes wears it. So I just like to keep my man going, to keep him in good spirits and to keep him excited to have something going on. So that's what we're doing. Maybe one day he'll finally get the catch that goose he's been chasing for so long. But we'll see what happens. It's gonna be an interesting season.
Let me ask you this, Mike. Does that same theory work when you lose those parlays and they come looking for that money?
Honestly, it does, because every day I wake up and I say maybe today is the day.
I'm gonna find Mike in a dirt pit one day, dead, face down.
100%.
Nobody's gonna know who did it.
100%.
I think the best part about this schedule too is we're really going to see who the best teams in baseball are now. Because if you look at the Dodgers, I'm going to use Houston for an example too, because Houston up until this year when Seattle kind of came out of nowhere, Dodgers and Houston have played in the worst divisions in baseball for like the last 5-6 years. And you have a team like the Dodgers that goes 45 games above 500 over their own division because the rest of their division is crap. But then when they play the rest of the National League and when they go into interleague play, Dodgers were a 500 team or slightly above 500. They weren't that great outside of the division. By cutting all these division games and forcing all these teams to play everybody, you're not going to have an opportunity now to go 40 games above 500 in your division. You might go 15, maybe 20 games above 500, but if you're playing 500 baseball or even below 500 baseball against the rest of the league, you're going to get passed up by some of these teams that actually play well outside of their division, like teams like the Braves, teams like the Yankees, teams like all these other teams that have come from competitive divisions that actually hold their own not only in their division, but then they go in other divisions and play well too. You're going to start to see a lot of, I think, shuffling in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with all of the different free agents that have gone left and right, up and down, I'm curious to see how this league, like you said, to your point, Stat Guy, how this league is going to look, because there's so many teams that really upgraded, and there's so many teams that didn't upgrade, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think you're going to see a different makeup, and I definitely think you're going to see the Yankees not make it to the promised land.
How do you guys think? How do you guys
the
think?
Yankees have the Cy Young winner on their team this year, though. I can say that much.
You know what, Stat Guy? Don't even say nothing. Don't say nothing. Just let Jay continue to say what he say. And then when the results happen at the end, he's going to be the one that has his mouth shut. So I'm not saying nothing right now.
Hey, look, Frankie, I got to keep the hype up, man, because, listen, when we face each other in the ALCS, I want it to be a spectacle of spectacles.
Well, Jay, like Stat Guy said, it's a whole new league. We're all facing literally every team in baseball. So you don't even know if your team is going to be able to make it to the ALCS. It's a whole different season. I'll say the same about the Yankees. I'll say the same about the Yankees. You won't know if the Yankees will make it because there's a whole.
You don't think the Astros are going to make it to the ALCS? That's just ridiculous.
Jay, baseball hasn't even spring training literally just started. The first games of the preseason hasn't even started yet. And you're already saying that Astros are going to make it. I'm not going to sit here and say the Yankees are going to make it to the ALCS because there's possibility that none of our teams can make it there. Literally, you never know.
Yeah, all your guys' teams could lose, and the Reds can make it to the National League Championship.
All right, now you're going. Now you're going. Now you're going too wild.
All right, that's where we stop.
Chris, at. Say it with your chest, Chris.
Chris,
say it like
Chris, that doesn't even happen on MLB The Show because it doesn't allow them to get that far.
Hey, you know what's funny? Chris can't even say that with a straight face.
Hey, I've watched the Reds lose for a lot of years now, but one of these days, one of these years, we'll get back going in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mike, I am curious to think what your realistic expectation is for this Cubs team. I mean, look, they have made some additions that look pretty good. So, what do you think your realistic expectation is out of them this year with this squad?
Yeah, I'm a little biased. You know, some of them are my guys, and they're going to be getting a chance to be at the show, and I'm really excited to finally see guys like Brennan and Matt and Ben and Ethan potentially come back at some point, and a bunch of other guys, you know, really get going. And you know, I say that because you know I love the young guys, and I think pause. I love the young guys, and I think, you know, there's so much that goes into that where, you know, you can't always bank on prospects. And I think the beauty of this offseason was, you know, 6 of the 9 guys on the field have won gold gloves. If you count Nico Horner, who I think is going to be a gold glove candidate. Again, anything can happen this season, but, you know, he's shown that he can be that guy and he could be somebody you can rely on. So, you know, I really think, you know, bringing in Dansby Swanson, Tucker Barnhart, you know, Eric Hosmer, Trey Mancini from the Astros, and obviously a bunch of other guys. We solved a lot of things. And there's a lot of holes that, you know, we had. And I was really worried about it for a while, to be honest, because you weren't really sure, you know, what we were going to potentially be able to do. And I think that's one of the things that the Cubs really addressed. You know, you can't always just bank on the prospects all panning out. And now, you know, Brennan Davis, Matt Mervis, these top prospects really don't have, you know, all of this weight on their shoulders because you got guys like Dansby Swanson in the cut. You got guys like Jamison Tyone, and they brought in Michael Fulmer and a bunch of other guys to really help with the bullpen. So I think a realistic conversation for that is really, I'm saying 85 to 88 wins is kind of my mark. I don't think they win the division. Obviously, I still think, you know, St. Louis has a great team and they have 2 MVP caliber guys, and obviously Paul and Nolan. But, you know, I do think that the Cubs could potentially sneak into the wild card, especially with the expansion of the playoffs. And I think that's not a unrealistic thing to say. And Jay, because you brought it up and I didn't bring it up, I got this little video. I wanted to show it to Dustin too. It's Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner working out yesterday, and
I watched it. It was great.
I tickled my balls watching it. Look at it. Look at it. Ooh.
Let me ask you this, though. I do want to kind of go back real quick to Trey Mancini. He was really hot over there with the Orioles. He comes to Houston, you know, as we acquired him, he had a couple of key at bats, but not really, in my opinion, the same Trey Mancini that was out there in Baltimore. What version of Trey do you think you're going to get out there in Chicagoland?
Respectfully, Baltimore. I don't care. You know what I mean? I'll let Dustin cover it too because, you know, he knows him better than I do. But respectfully, I really don't care. Like, I just needed a DH really badly that I felt like we could believe in and that, you know, we felt like could play every single day. And I think that's really what Trey brings. Kind of the same conversation about Cody Bellinger. You know, I really don't care what your production is. There was a hole in center field, and now we have a Gold Glover out there. So whatever he does offensively, I don't really care. The same thing with Trey. You know, you're an everyday DH. Just go out there, get on base. Don't really care how you do
it. Yeah, man. The Cubs are going to be good this year, yo.
I think
Cody Bellinger, Dansby, Trey Turner. Oh no, Trey Turner's with the Phillies.
Yeah, I wish.
I think the Cubs get the Baltimore version of Trey Mancini mainly because he's going to be an everyday player. When he went to Houston, he had to sit behind Gurriel at first base, so he wasn't going to play at first base. You had Yordan Alvarez bouncing between left field and DH, so Mancini lost games at DH. If Mancini started, 1 game a week with Houston, he was lucky. If he played in more than 3 games a week with Houston, he was lucky. So he never really had an opportunity to get in a rhythm when he started struggling, Houston just wasn't going to go to him because they had other guys that were playing better than him at that point. Now with Eric Hosmer at first base and Mancini as a DH, Mancini's going to play every day one way or another. He's going to be the everyday DH, or he's going to be the everyday first baseman if Hosmer gets cut and a guy like Matt Mervis gets called up to that roster at some point. So Trey Mancini is going to be playing at least 5 to 6 days a week. And if he plays 5 to 6 days a week, he's going to give you the production that he gave you in Baltimore, where he's a 260 hitter. He's going to give you around 20 homers, around 80 RBIs, and that's a lot more production than what the Cubs had out of their DH role last year. That's a lot more production than they had out of their first base role last year. Same thing with Cody Bellinger. If Cody Bellinger hits a 240 with 20 homers and 70 RBIs, that's more production than what the Cubs had out of center field combined between Rafael Ortega and Jason Hayward last year. So even if those guys put up basically anything close to what they typically put up, That's more production what the Cubs had at those positions last year, so it ends up being a win-win for them. And I'm a little bit different on the opinion of the Cubs than what Mike is in terms of a win total. We're kind of in the same range. I have them in that 84 to 88 win total. But I think they can win the division because the Cardinals do have question marks in their starting rotation. They don't know if Jack Flaherty is going to be 100% yet. They don't know what they can get out of him. You don't know how long Adam Wainwright can keep pitching the way he's pitched the last couple of years. At 41 years old, eventually he's going to fall off. And then you have Miles Mikolas. Outside of those three, the Cardinals are still trying to figure out the back end of that rotation. Mm-hmm. And if they can't figure that out, that Central Division is wide open. Right. But I think if the Cubs don't win the Central Division, they're not going to make the playoffs because you have to look at the NL East. 3 teams in that division are going to win 95 games most likely. And then you look at the NL West, Dodgers and Padres are most likely going to win about 95 games. So you're going to have 5 teams in the National League that are going to have 95 wins, which takes up 5 of the 6 playoff spots or 5 of the 7 playoff spots right there. And then obviously
that's a great point.
Is going to take up another one. So, I mean, they have a shot to get that 7th wild or the 7th and final playoff spot, but I think their best chance is to win that division to get one.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's one of those things, and to Dustin's point, I think this is the most complete Cubs rotation that we've seen in several years, probably since like 2017. And I think, that's really one of the biggest things for me is, it's a lot of name brand guys. Like if you look at last season and the health of Drew Smyly and Marcus Stroman and Kyle Hendricks, they were not healthy whatsoever. Kind of like Gonzo looking right now, like they were hurting. I saw that, Gonzo. It's all right. You got it. But I definitely think, if the Cubs can stay healthy the same way, they're hoping Jack Flaherty can, then I think that the Cubs definitely have an edge as a roster. But I'm not going to sit here and say Kyle Hendricks, Marcus Stroman, Jameson Taillon, and all these guys stay healthy because we really haven't seen it in a couple years. So I'm hoping they do. But, it's really going to be interesting. And Frankie kind of did bring up a couple key points on Taillon that, I'll hold my tongue on for now. But, I'm curious to see what his role really is with the team going into this year.
I mean, with Taillon, though, he went 14-5 in the AL East. And that right there is telling you something because the AL East is a brutal division to pitch in, and you can ask any pitcher that's pitched in the AL East. So if you can go 14-5 in the AL East and post an ERA under a 4, and now you're going to the NL Central, that's going to be an easier road for Taillon.
It definitely is. But there was also situations where he didn't make a playoff roster for certain reasons. So I think, there's definitely a lot of things that go into it.
I already told Frankie my theory on that, and I think Frankie kind of sided with me on it. My theory was the Yankees traded for Frankie Montas. They 100%. gave up what they gave up to trade for Montas. They pretty much had no choice but to put Montas on that playoff roster because they traded for him. They made all the acquisitions to get him. Even if he wasn't playoff experienced like Taillon, they had really no choice but to use him.
No, 100%. But I mean, there's always still a role. You know what I mean? You could always find a spot, especially with a guy like that. You said 14-5 and still missed it. And it wasn't like, and Frankie, I love you, baby. But it wasn't the craziest rotation for the Yankees throughout this year. There were a lot of guys I think they could have took off of there and then put in Taillon. But, again, I'm not going to really go into that. It's a whole new season. It's a whole new layout. Like Frankie said, past is the past. And the only one that's still getting flack from me is Aroldis Chapman. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with all that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Houston hasn't gone back and grabbed Yuli Gurriel. I know they can get him super cheap. He is 38, but he still plays a really good defensive first base, and I'm really surprised they didn't pick him back up. But it looks like they're content with going without him. So I'm wondering.
I think it has to do with Jose Abreu.
Oh, absolutely. No, and I get that. Trust me, I understand that. So I guess
Jay, Jay, if you don't mind me asking, how is Uriel's how is his batting? Like, was he good last year? Was he bad?
See, that's the thing about Yuli. During the regular season, not so much, but he really
playoff Gurriel is a different player.
Hey, when you get Yuli in the postseason, though, that guy does come up with clutch hits when you need them. I don't know what it is or why it is, but he always comes up with a clutch hit in postseason for some reason.
So that's probably why the Astros aren't going to re-sign him, is because Abreu is that guy who can actually give you those numbers on regular season and postseason, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah, Gurriel hit a 242 in the regular season last year, which isn't terrible, but he hit a 350 in the playoffs.
Yeah, so imagine having those two numbers together compared to what you said Uriel had those numbers, right?
Yeah, Yuli Gurriel hit a 240 in the regular season and like a 350 in the playoffs.
Yeah, so imagine having Abreu who can honestly hit you close to a 300 in the regular season, and then imagine what he can do in the playoffs. Hitting probably close to a 300 as well. I mean, that would be phenomenal for the Astros part.
Yeah, Jose Abreu was like a 290 career hitter, and he's only made the playoffs one time in his career, and he was, 6 for 10 in that playoff series?
I mean, I think and again, that's what the Astros are definitely counting on, no doubt about it. Even to what Franklin said, I definitely agree. I guess I'm just partial to Yuli because he has been with us for 8 years, and it's like watching one of your family members leave. It sucks, but
man,
he's 38 years old, so he's not getting any younger. So I get that as well.
You gotta move on. You moved on fine from Carlos Correa, so you can move on fine from this.
And you're putting Jose Abreu in Houston with that short left field fence.
Yeah,
where he has a chance to legitimately hit 40 homers this year because of that short left field.
Seriously.
And Gurriel's not going to give you 40 homers. Gurriel might give you 15.
No, there's no doubt about
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to be surprised if Jose Abreu finishes in the top 3 in MVP voting this year just because of that short left field. Because that guy was always a 30 homer, 100, 110 RBI guy with the White Sox. And that was a field that it's not hard to hit home runs in, but it's not like Houston. I mean, it's a much deeper park than Houston.
Right.
But now you're putting him in Houston where left field is legitimately 33 feet shorter than left field in U.S. Cellular. He has a shot to hit 40 home runs and drive in 120 guys this year. And if he does that and hits his typical 290, 295, he's going to be in there for the MVP voting at the end of the year.
I got a question. Gonzo, do you think that the Reds as a whole will hit 100 home runs this year?
Oh, damn.
Hey, Mike, they might be saved by Will Myers because Will Myers might be able to at least get 30, 35 in that ball.
I think they'll get there just because the ballpark we play in. Great American isn't a real big park, so we'll get some home. What excites me about the Reds is
I'll take the under 99.5. That's my Gonzo.
I like how Chris is blaming it on the stadium and not the players yet.
No, I'm saying the stadium's smaller, so I think we will get home runs. The stadium's not. It's a hitter's ballpark. But what I like about the Reds this year going into the season is our pitching staff. I think we're finally getting a decent pitching staff. We just don't have the bats.
Yeah.
That guy, I kind of was curious. I know you live out there in Wisconsin, but are you a Brewers or a Cubs fan?
I'm a Cubs fan.
Okay.
Cubs fan.
He's a Chicago everything but.
Well, he does live in Wisconsin. He could have been a Brewers fan. Damn.
No, he said it before. He's a Chicago everything except for NFL. He's a Viking.
Okay, I got you. Wow. Don't ever say that too loud in Wisconsin, man. They take that stuff seriously.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of they call it Wrigley North up there for a reason. A lot of them are Cubs fans. And did you know
there is more Cubs fans in Wisconsin than there is Brewer fans.
Jay McLovin, can you guess the highest selling jersey in Wisconsin this year?
Oh, it's probably going to be a Cubs jersey.
Oh, it was Justin Fields.
Was it really?
Not Aaron Rodgers.
I will tell you two things. Again, I never lived in the northern part of Wisconsin. I lived in the Sheboygan area. But we always call people from Illinois fibs, and you know what a fib is. I know Stat Guy knows what a fib is. And if you don't, it's an effing Illinois bastard, basically.
Do you know what the number
Frankie.
Do you know what the
I'm on it.
Mike, do you know what the number 2 selling jersey was up here?
Get him, Frank. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Mike, do you know what the number 2 selling jersey was up here behind Fields?
Hey, that word is in the dictionary, by the way. If it's in the dictionary, it can be said.
Get him out of here. He doubled down.
Mike,
I do not, Dustin. I actually don't.
Number 2 selling jersey up here was Justin Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
And then number 3 selling jersey after that was Hawkinson.
There's a lot of Bears fans here.
Yeah, after Hawkinson went to Minnesota.
That is so interesting to me because I know, like I said, if you go down to anywhere around the Sheboygan area, middle Wisconsin, whatever, they are diehard everything Wisconsin.
Frankie, did you hear what he said?
Minnesota like that.
Frankie, did you hear what he said? Where's Frank? Come on, Frank. You can't get promoted.
Nah,
my
bad. I'm talking.
Hey,
my bad.
he said Sheboygan. He said it's not a bad word, but it's not a good word. Take him out. Get him out of here. Get him out of here right now. What's a Sheboygan?
Sheboygan is a city right on Lake Michigan.
Get his ass.
There's a lot of Bears fans here in Indiana too, because the Colts didn't get here till like 1980. Yeah. So there's a lot of Bears fans here in Indiana.
There's a lot of Cubs fans in Indiana too because of South Bend.
Yeah. Yep. My guy Cole Franklin up in South Bend. Shout out Cole.
And they have like 14 stuff.
Oh, how do you guys think the new rules are going to affect the game, Major League Baseball this year?
Dude, oh my God, I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad for the first season. I understand what they're doing, but I think
again, and if you were playing.
Get his ass out of here. But no, I think it's going to be interesting. You know, I was watching a Tennessee Volunteers game. You know, they were actually experimenting with it the other day in college baseball. And you know, a guy asked for time, and he's not allowed. You're not allowed to give it to him. You know, you can if you choose, but the umpire doesn't have to give you time after a certain amount of time in the pitching clock. So it starts a lot of conflicts. It starts a lot of arguments between managers and umpires, and obviously players and umpires. And I think for the first season, it's going to be a lot of crying. It's going to be a lot of excuses. It's going to be a lot of guys who, you know, are just having bad days and want to just, you know, start an argument just for the sake of starting an argument. And I think there's so many different opportunities now to actually get pissed off as a pitcher or as a PO. And even as a batter, I think there's a lot of different reasons why you can end up getting pissed off, especially, you know, with the umpiring crew that is the MLB. So I think it's definitely going to be a struggle for the first couple months. But I think once it starts getting together, I think it's a great system. And I think, you know, it's really going to work. The only thing I'm not rocking with is the ghost runner on second in the 10th. I still think, you know, when you look at it for what it is, I think speeding up innings, let's say 3 through 6, are really important. You know, extra innings is some of the most important baseball you could potentially have. And it's really when people start turning on the game. If Jay McLovin doesn't feel like watching an Astros game, but sees that they're in the 15th inning, he's going to turn it on. But if he sees that they're tied in the 4th inning, who cares? You know what I mean? So I don't really like having the extra runner on second. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially in extra innings when, you know, that's some of the most fun baseball right there. So if you want to speed up, you know, if you want to put a runner on second through 4 through 7, I don't give a fuck. But, you know, get him out of here, Frank. Get him out of here. I got to go.
It's too. I agree with the putting a runner on second. If you want to put a runner on base in extra innings, I think you put him at first. I think putting a runner in scoring position, you're giving the offense too big of an advantage.
The sad part is, even when you put the runner at second base, how many teams don't even know how to play fundamental baseball? Yeah. And even with the runner on second base, they couldn't do crap with it.
Yep.
I think the pitch clock's going to be great. I love the idea just because it worked well in the minor leagues when they did it, and it kind of sped things up. I'm just curious to see how it's going to affect guys like Max Scherzer, guys like Yu Darvish, guys like Jacob deGrom that actually take their time between pitches for a reason, and that's kind of how their approach has always been. They're not a guy that likes to work fast. They're not like a Wade Miley that literally you throw the ball back to Wade Miley, by the time it's in his glove, he's ready to go back to home plate and fire it.
Miley get rid of that ball as quick as he can.
These are guys that literally like to stand on the mound and kind of like stare down the hitter to try to intimidate them, even if they know what they want to throw 15, 20 seconds before they throw it. Guys like Yu Darvish, I think, are going to be affected the most.
It's already affecting the Astros. They already told one of their pitchers that he can't do what he normally does, and if he does, he's going to have to consider a balk.
Yeah, and that's why I think pitchers like that are going to be the most affected.
How bad do you think the balks are going to be this season coming up? Given with all the rule changes and what that looks like.
I think those are going to go up too because people are going to have to speed up their delivery if they're nearing the end of that pitch clock.
Right. And that's where I was saying where I think the first couple months is going to be a lot of arguing, and it's going to be, you know, a lot more time is going to be spent on not playing and arguing than it is about speeding up the game. But once everything kind of settles down and gets acclimated, I think acclimated. Come on, Mike. You know, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But I don't know. I like it. But again, I think there's still a lot more you could have did to, you know, maybe just marketing your league better. is one thing to kind of, bring in more money and bring in more fans. I mean, I could tell you right now, if you walked into any middle school in America and said to, let's say 30 kids, name 10 MLB players currently, I bet you they couldn't. And that's really what it comes down to is, they fail to market on guys like Julio Rodriguez and, Jazz Chisholm Hall and Shohei Ohtani and a bunch of other guys, Ronald Acuna Jr. and just a bunch of guys that I really I mean, Aaron Judge, I mean, a guy who breaks the home run record for the AL. It's a conversation to where, people didn't care. And it really was like one of the worst opportunities I feel like that they squandered was really marketing that and that was happening.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things I think we haven't talked about yet is how important the shift going away is going to be for the change. I think the shift going away is going to bring baseball back to old school, where it's contact hitting just as much as home run hitting. And I think that shift going away is going to be absolutely huge. If nobody else, for the Astros, because the Astros lived and died by this shift. So I expect to see a lot of things change because of this shift. I expect Kyle Tucker to be up there in AL player of the year or whatever, because I think his contact hitting is going to be going up. I think his on-base percentages is going to go up.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I was telling Frankie. I think Anthony Rizzo comes back and has an MVP season because of that. He was always he was always top 15 in MVP races, throughout his stint with the Cubs. And, a big part of that was his bat, and a big part of that's his power. You already know he's a Gold Glover. I'll speak for Dustin and myself. I'm not worried about the shift being gone. Check this out, Jay. Look at him. Oh my God. Oh, it's nasty. It's disgusting.
It's so cute when the ball's lightly hit to you and you can make that little, we've been doing that for years, Mike. Years.
It's so cute when you're up in the box and your shirt starts buzzing, isn't it?
Hey, now see that there, that's the problem with the world. We always want to go back to the history of 2017. I don't know what it is. That's like
Jay, they teach history class for a reason. It's so we don't repeat the past.
And we can go back. We can go back to last season and talk about the illegal bat.
Here we go. Get him out of here, Frank. No one wants to hear it. Get him out of here, Frank.
You remember the Chicago Black Sox?
That's not my team. Get him out of here, Frank.
Hey, do you remember the Dodgers that were cheating?
Also not my team. I do not care.
The Yankees that were cheating.
Jay, we go back to last year when they were using the illegal bat last season.
Hey, that's not illegal bat. If that's your argument, it's weak as hell. Your argument is about as weak as that argument is about as weak as Mike Hughes' beard. Okay. Jesus. Didn't one of the pitcher have something on his hand? Kept wiping his hand. Again.
Wait, what'd you say, Chris? What'd you say about the pitcher, Chris? Chris, what'd you say about the pitcher?
Again, did he have something on his hand? Kept wiping his hand?
In his hand? Oh,
and if Frankie's gonna get happy about that, that just shows you how weak the Yankees really are.
Well, here's a question for everybody since we're still on baseball.
Hold on, Dustin. You see how easy it is that Jay gets so mad with Frankie? Like, I could just say, Chris, what'd you say again? And then he just goes out and say,
no.
It's
not about – no. See, it's only because I know you, Frankie. I know you so well. When you say that to Chris, you're really trying to say and start it. So don't go there. We know each other.
How am I trying – hold on. How am I trying to say it and start it when he already said it before I asked him to re-say it?
Dustin, you want to see what I could do? Well, check this out. Wait, look. Bam. Oh yeah, he could do it. He could do it too. I forgot. Wait, he didn't bring back Jay. All right, he brought back Jay.
Here's a question for everybody since we're still on baseball. We know that Trevor Bauer's been reinstated.
Uh-oh.
We know that Trevor Bauer's not going to be pitching for the Dodgers anymore because...
Hold on. Did Jay just kick himself because of Trevor Bauer? No.
But who do you think, if anyone, takes a shot on Trevor Bauer?
I think the Chicago White Sox should take a shot on Trevor Bauer.
Not with the Clevenger situation right now.
I mean,
they don't need to add a drama to that situation. They already got a guy that's facing. Again,
though, you were willing to take the first guy. Might as well take the second guy. But I do think there are a couple of teams out there that there's Jay. But there are a couple guys that I think should take a shot on Trevor Bauer, and I think him getting proven innocent in whatever factor you want to say that is, in a court of law, he was proven innocent. So I think teams are definitely going to give him an opportunity because we've seen plenty of teams do it before with far more dire and far more serious situations. But I think one of the big factors for me is, and Frankie's gonna hate it, but I think the Boston Red Sox are in a weird situation right now. To where you look at their rotation and you're like, yo, it's pretty ass. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty bad. So I think they definitely need to kind of take that opportunity and kind of say, hey, listen, we can get him for cheap. He was a Cy Young winner just not too long ago, and that's something they really need to do because, to Frankie's point, Frankie's been screaming it the last year. The Yankees are running away with that division, and I think that's really what it is. You bring in Trevor Story, you bring in a bunch of other faces, you finally get Chris Sale back, but it's still mediocrity. So I think they have to do something, and I think that's something that I feel like that the Red Sox should do, but that's just me.
I guess there's reports that 3 teams are going to be working him out this week.
Gross.
Team number 1 is Tampa, because they're got to start looking at life without Glasnow because they're not going to be able to afford Glasnow after this year. The other team is the Toronto Blue Jays. And the other team, which, if they add him to that rotation, I think it could be really interesting, is Texas.
I loved Pop so much. He said the Reds. I could hear his voice, too. The Reds. Let's get freaky.
But yeah, Texas is the other team working him out this week. And if you pair him with Jacob deGrom and whatever, with the rest of what Texas did in free agency, with Bruce Bochy as the manager, that rotation becomes scary.
Right. And you have Jack Leiter could potentially come up at any point during probably June, July.
That Bochy hire by Texas was really, really huge. And I do expect to see a lot of things out of Texas coming up.
Especially if Bauer can get toward the level that he was pitching before the time off. If he can get back to high level, Rangers that rotation would be real scary.
Yeah, I mean, that whole division, with the exception of the A's and the Angels, has really gotten better. Texas has gotten better. Seattle's gotten better. So, yeah, Houston's going to have their work cut out for them in that division, where I think previously Houston's had a cakewalk, honestly, in that division. And I think Frankie we've all talked about that. But, yeah, this year is going to be a little bit different scenario, a little bit different story. So I expect to see big things out of it.
Excuse me. Let's move to basketball for a minute. Lonzo Ball is his.
That's Mike's favorite storyline.
Well, here's my question. No, I know the Bulls shut him down, but is his career over?
His career in Chicago is over.
Yeah, I don't think his career is over whatsoever. I think a lot of people forget he's 24 years old. I think if you were to tell me right now that he's never going to play basketball ever again at the age of 24, I'd be very surprised. As a Bull, I can't really speak on that. I don't know what the future is going to hold for this entire roster. Nonetheless, what Lonzo Ball's situation is going to be, but he's on a 4-year deal, and this is year 2, going into year 3 this offseason. I think, you 85 mil, around 85 mil over 4 years, and you really got half a season of them so far, and it was a great time. We were we were first and second in the East, and everything was rolling. We were one of the top dogs in the league, and Chicago basketball was really on its way back, but you can't really hold on to what that was versus the year and a half of him not being healthy and 3 surgeries on the same injury, and it's been a problem.
Let's be honest, though. Let's be honest. If you go back to the day when I was telling you guys when he had that knee injury, and I said, look, it's taking ridiculously long for him to come back from this rehab. It shouldn't take this damn long. And everybody's, well, Jay, everybody heals Jay. I said, no, damn it.
No, there's more to it.
I said it's more than just that damn knee that's an issue with Lonzo Ball. And it's now starting to come out. If you look at recent reports, is that now they're suspecting nerve damage from the last surgery that he had. Now is causing some of the issues of why he can't run up and down that court.
If it is nerve damage,
he may be 24, but if there is nerve damage, if there is other outlying factors there, he could very well be done.
That's what scares me, is that nerve damage.
If there is nerve damage, and it's one of those situations where he's gone to countless doctors, countless doctors can't figure out why he has this nerve damage. If it really is nerve damage, he could very well be done because there might be nothing they can do for it.
But here's the deal, though. They said the nerve damage was done in the surgery. He may now have a case for maybe a malpractice suit in that surgery.
Yeah, he has one right now, and I've said that quite a few times that if I'm Lonzo Ball, I'm going after the Bulls trainer too because the Bulls trainer is originally what screwed up that first surgery.
Yeah.
He told Lonzo Ball that his injury was a 4 to 6 week injury. Right. So they sat him for 6 weeks. They started rehabbing him after that 6 weeks, and that's when he ends up tearing it even worse and has that first surgery. Right. So if anything, Lonzo Ball should go after
Klay Thompson goes through knee surgery, then has a damn Achilles injury, and this dude's back on the court, damn near getting back to where he was before he had all these surgeries, and freaking Lonzo has a simple knee issue, and this dude ain't been in damn court for 2 years, and now it could be even longer. I mean, come on, something ain't right. Something ain't clicking quite right.
No, it's a bad situation, man, and you know my thoughts and prayers are out with Lonzo because he's a great guy. He's a great guy on and off the court, and he does his thing. He's a great father. He's a great brother. He really brought in LaMelo and Jello, and kind of made them who they are today. Without Lonzo, there is no LaMelo Ball. I truly do believe that. So, it's really unfortunate, man. I did get a chance to finally see those two play against each other last year before they went down. LaMelo versus Lonzo was like a really dope thing. LeVar was there. Jello was there. It was really cool to really see them being able to do their thing. I've been watching them since, I was a kid, and it's really sad to see, what's going on with them right now. And I think, that's one of the biggest things for me is, just kind of rooting for the guy. Like, I understand the nerve damage and everything.
I mean, nobody likes to see any of this happen to anybody. I mean, yeah. I feel bad for Lonzo as well. I mean, he's such a young kid. Looked like he had a lot of hell of a good talent. And if there is some issues there with that Chicago medical staff as to why Lonzo's not on the court, and maybe if some of it is their issue, then yeah, I mean, it make my heart goes out to him, but at the same time, hey, Lonzo needs to get on that, and they need to do some medical research.
I mean, that's been a conversation for a long time since the Derrick Rose days. Is really just looking at the Chicago Bulls medical staff and guys who pushed Derrick Rose to come back way too early than he did. I'm not sure if that's the same exact medical staff. I don't know why. For some reason, I feel like they fired those individuals just a couple years ago with Gar Forman and John Paxson. But, it's definitely something, you need to look at and take into consideration. From a trainer point of view, I wouldn't particularly blame the trainer. He did have a partial tear in his meniscus. It wasn't a full-blown tear. So that is actually a 4 to 6 week recovery. I think sometimes you just kind of get the short end of the stick on there. And, at the end of the day, it wasn't the trainer who created that nerve damage. Like Jay said, it was the actual doctor who performed that. So I think, that's something for me. I wouldn't blame the trainer because he wasn't the guy cutting them open. You know what I mean? So that's definitely something that the doctor will be held accountable for. That'll definitely go on his whatever record they do over there and MDs and all that. But, it's definitely a sad time to kind of see that for him. And, the situation that the Bulls are in right now after having such high hopes, really just bringing those big three together, and Lonzo, Levine, DeMar, and Vooch. It was a great run for what it was, and I think we never really even got to see the true prime of what that could have been.
I will say this though. I will tell you this, Mike. We all know what LeVar and how he advertises and promotes his sons. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, LaMelo was going to be LaMelo regardless of Lonzo because LeVar was going to make sure of that. Oh. He was going to make sure of that. But I will say that Lonzo, like you said, was the pioneer for those three sons. And it's just such a shame because the guy's got great, like you say, he's got great talent, and this is it for him. Mm-hmm. My heart goes out for that because it's got to be. I mean, I can't imagine it. I really can't.
It's a tough go.
What a time to be alive, man! How about Pat? Let's talk about Pat Bev going to Chicago. Holy crap!
He's a hometown kid. Let him get 20 games with his hometown team. For $100K, who gives a crap? The Bulls aren't going anywhere this year, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it from what I'm hearing now, and him coming off the bench, I have no problem with. But if he was going to take minutes from Ayo Dosunmu, the real hometown kid that everybody's proud of, I think that was definitely something that we need to take into consideration was, not allowing that to mess up the development of Ayo because, Ayo's 22. So I mean, I'm not starting Patrick Beverley for 20 games over Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo is a 2-time rising star, and I think this kid has all the potential in the world to be great, and I think he is going to be solid somewhere at one point. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. And he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Vooch, Pat Bev, there's a bunch of guys that we can go down the list and see what's going to happen. But I would keep my eye out on Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan this offseason and really see what happens with that.
Mike, to take it one step further, hasn't that been kind of the issue, though, with Chicago is the lack of when Lonzo went down, you kind of lost that good point guard spot. I mean, why hasn't Ayu been able to step up in lieu of him and be able to pick up the reins and carry on?
It's been the defense, too, though, Jay. That was the big thing when Lonzo went down. It was the defense. They went from being a top 5 defensive team that was allowing like 104, 105 points per game to allowing 120. Right. It wasn't just what Lonzo did on offense. It was that defense because of how well he could defend the opposing point guard.
Right.
Bulls' defense on point guards is atrocious. It is absolutely atrocious.
To Dustin's point too, it's a problem for Ayo, and it was something for Ayo where Ayo's playing 40 minutes a game and he's a rookie. And I think that was one of the biggest things was like stepping up in those situations. He's drafted in the second round. He's a hometown kid, but he was drafted in the second round. You know what I mean? And it's because he's a project. And I think, you see these little spurts from him where he dunks on Giannis and he blocks KD and he has all these game winners and, he looks like the truth. And, there's nights he can give you 20, but, he's still a kid at the end of the day. And, the main difference between that, because I'm not going to sit here and make excuses. I see 22-year-olds like Anthony Edwards isn't even 22 yet. And he's a 3-time, whatever, like he's a stud. Anthony Edwards is the truth. But I'm not going to make excuses. But I do think the key difference between that is in a Billy Donovan style offense. And maybe this is where Billy lacks. Sometimes you do need somebody who's kind of that player's coach. He is a guy who really runs an offense through a point guard. And I know that's kind of like an obvious statement because everybody kind of does, except the Nuggets. But it's definitely something where, you had guys like, and let's be real, like in his prime, you had Russell Westbrook, you had Shazier Alexander, you had Chris Paul and a bunch of others, and Lonzo Ball being a true facilitator, being a true floor general, that just makes your offense so much easier. It makes DeMar and Zach kind of just be happy because they're going to get the ball no matter what from Zoe. Where Ayo is really a scorer first. I would say Ayo is one of those guys that's going to get to the basket. He's not really, your pass first, see the floor and really just pass these amazing dimes where, Lonzo Ball, one of the best defending guards in the league, is also one of the best floor facilitators. I would say he's a top 5 true point guard. You got Chris Paul and a bunch of other guys, but I think Lonzo Ball is right up there as well and he has a 3-point shot as well. So, it's really, you just can't replace that. You know what I mean? It's really hard. Especially from a guy, because Jay, I told you about it. It's right. Not when everyone said, do you want Russell Westbrook? I said, I'd take him just because, the points are going to match. You know what I mean? Like he's going to average more points than Lonzo did. Lonzo averaged anywhere from 10 to 15. But what he did and his plus minus stats were so much more than a lot of people realize. And I think that's something that you just can't teach. That's not something that you can just, hey, I averaged 30 points. Like, that's cool. But like, what did you do for Zach? You made Zach an all-star. You made DeMar an all-star. You made DeMar have back-to-back 40-plus games and average 35 points in the month of January. Like, that's something that you can't teach from a point guard perspective that Lonzo brought. So I felt like whether it was Caruso or Ayo or Mac McClung for a couple of days and anybody else, it really just fix it.
Let's talk a little NFL. Dustin put something in the private chat about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the Detroit Lions.
Ben said that one. Yeah, I've been thinking that should definitely be the move.
I think that's probably the best. Like if the Ravens are going to move on from Lamar, getting Goff back in return, who are you going to get? What quarterback are you going to get back in return that's going to be better than Goff?
It's not only that. It's not only that you're going to get a quarterback that's better. It's that he's got 3 years, well. And he's got 3 years left on his contract. So you're getting a quarterback that has multiple years of control where you can reinvent your roster around Jared Goff, and then you can potentially draft his replacement and have him sit maybe 1 or 2 years behind Goff. Versus Lamar Jackson.
I think Baltimore is going to drastically change that offense. Ever since I've known Baltimore from when they first came about. They've always been a defensively heavy team with a heavy run game, and now that they actually have a passing quarterback,
and not just that, they got a new offensive coordinator as well.
Well, that's true as well. I mean, you see a changing of the guard there with Baltimore.
And you send Lamar Jackson to Detroit. Detroit has the money to give Lamar Jackson close to what he wants. Plus, they have DJ Chark. I know he's a free agent, but they'll probably try to re-sign DJ Chark. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have
some weapons.
Garrett. You have Jamison Williams, who played a couple of games this year because he was recovering from an injury. You're giving Lamar Jackson more weapons to throw to than what he had in Baltimore. Then he's got DeAndre Swift in the backfield. They might bring back Jamal Williams, so that's a great situation for Lamar Jackson to end up in if he is going to get traded.
Well, and true, there's going to be a lot of questions that are finally going to get answered about Lamar as to whether or not he's an actual quarterback or just a playmaker. I mean, there's going to be some heavy questions answered about that, which I think it needs to happen, both for Lamar as well as everybody else. So that's going to be interesting. I am excited. If that really does happen, it should be quite interesting to say the least.
And if that does happen, I think you can pretty much pencil it in that Aaron Rodgers will not be back. Because if you look at how that division is going to change, you're going to have Justin Fields, you're going to have Lamar Jackson, two potent running quarterbacks, and then you're going to have Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, the aging pocket quarterbacks. I think the Packers would commit to Jordan Love at that point.
Hey, Jay, you want to see my favorite video ever?
What is that? Let me see it.
Leader of the hidden village of the Den. Or swag.
That's my favorite video ever, G. That's my favorite. That's hands down the best. I love Jamal Williams, man. I hope he's a Bear. Honestly, I don't care what anybody says. I hope he's a Bear so bad. I want Jamal Williams so bad. I said, what?
Do you take him over David Montgomery?
Hell yeah. What the fuck? Oh, sorry, Frankie. Oh. Damn. But yeah, no. Well, I guess if Frankie's gonna take me out, he's gonna take me out. Fuck David Montgomery. But that's I mean, not really. Like, David's a great. Nah, David's a great guy. My thing with David is always been his instincts, and I think, not to keep it on the Bears, but I wanted to get it out because a lot of people on Twitter were coming at me about it. When you look at a running back, especially with an offensive line like this isn't Zeke and the Cowboys back in 2016, where you snap the ball and there's instantly 3 different holes in 3 different places that you can run up the middle on. And I think that's David's problem is, he doesn't see a hole, so he'll stop and he'll wait for his gap. And that's where I don't want to pay David Montgomery, because a guy like, a Tony Pollard, a guy like Saquon Barkley, if there's no hole, they create a hole or they go around it and they figure it out. And I think David gets caught up in a lot of bad situations. And that's why you start to see, why does he get the most yards after contact, is because he's getting contacted the second he grabs the ball, because, the guy's not moving. He's staying still. So, that's something for me. I think, he's a workhorse. He does his job, but I'm not paying him top dollar for that.
And just go and get Saquon.
Yeah, I'm good. I want Jamal. I want the hidden leader village.
But speaking of running backs, though, now, what if Dallas decides, because Dallas is about $7.6 million over the cap.
They've already said they want Zeke to take a pay cut or they're cutting him. So
yeah, I was about to ask you, do you think Zeke gets cut? And if so, then does Dallas look to? They're going to franchise Pollard for sure. And then do they look for another running back in the open market?
You want to franchise Pollard?
I don't think you franchise Pollard.
No,
I don't know. That's the rumor I've seen floating.
That is the worst franchise tag I think I've ever seen. You franchise tagged a guy with a broken fibula, whose only job is to run. The guy with the broken leg just got $30 million to have a broken leg. You don't.
I agree.
If you win $30 million for a broken leg, sign me up for that shit. Someone hit me with a bat.
Jay McLovin, you want to talk about Lonzo Ball? If y'all franchise tag,
me, I get it.
Hey, if y'all franchise tag Pollard, you best believe I'm coming on this show in a Lonzo Ball jersey, and I'm talking crazy. I'm talking a mess.
And the thing about it wasn't just the fibula that got jacked up. It's the membrane that's in between the fibula and tibula that got jacked up as well. So he is completely unstable from the kneecap down.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't just the fibula; it was everything in between that bone as well. That got
Dallas will go after Alexander Madison.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
he's a solid.
He's not going to be back in Minnesota because of Delvin Cook, and you could easily get Madison for like $5 million, maybe $6 million a year, and lock him up for 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised too. What I would hope is maybe that Robinson or Gibbs or one of the other running backs in the draft maybe falls down to him.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be bad either.
I would just draft a kid at that point. I'm not signing no. I'm not paying a kid, especially if you're over the cap the way you are. It's perfectly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can pick the guy up right out of the. I think where they're drafting at 26 and given all the expectations in between there, I don't think running back is the highest expectation. So I think that one of those guys it would fall to them.
What about
I don't think Robinson.
Jay, why not have the Dallas Cowboys try and go for Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. Honestly, I like Josh Jacobs
because he's going to the Bears.
What are your thoughts?
Running back. You already got a running back. His name is Justin Fields.
I don't know if they'd be able to afford Jacobs with their cap space.
Who, the Bears?
Who?
The Cowboys.
Cowboys.
I was about to say.
I know the
wrong brother.
I know the Bears could.
I could afford everybody in their mama.
What about Daniel Jones asking the Giants for $45 million a season?
He's retarded. He's not
even going to get $40 million for 2 years.
Out of here.
Let alone stinking $40 to $45 million a year is what Daniel Jones is asking.
Hey, this dude just comprehended what it means to be an NFL quarterback, much less anything else. What are we talking about?
There is not a team in their right mind that's going to pay him $40 million.
No,
He's not even going to get $40 million on a multi-year deal.
I think Daniel Jones is a solid athlete. I think that's one of those things where, you watch his game with Brian Dable, and Brian Dable kind of, he showed you exactly how he feels about Daniel Jones. There's several games where he throws less than 200 yards. He's running around all over the place. And granted, you don't have the greatest wide receiver core, but after seeing what Patrick Mahomes did with Tunyon and everybody else, it definitely spoke volumes. Kenny Golladay sucks. I mean, that's just what it is. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened to Kenny. Kenny was solid in Detroit. I don't know what happened to Kenny in New York. But I think a part of that is Daniel Jones. And I think there's something to be said about, guys who are good athletes. And I think Daniel Jones was one of those guys who kind of got over-evaluated just because of, respectfully, just being a white quarterback. And that's kind of the model of what so many people look at. I mean, I was talking to Jay about it the other day. There's always one white guy who comes from a no-name football school who kind of just gets over-evaluated. We're looking at Daniel Jones out of Duke football. Then you're looking at Mitchell Trubisky out of North Carolina, Zach Wilson out of BYU, and now obviously Will Levis is the next guy to kind of fall into that conversation. It's definitely something for me where, the athleticism is definitely keeping him in the NFL, but, to say that you're going to be a top 5, top 10 highest paid quarterback in the league, you're crazy. But hey, shout out to him for even trying. I'd try too. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna say no to it.
You can't get mad at a guy for trying to get more money.
No, gut them for every dollar they have.
But you can get mad at the team that decides to give him that much money.
100%. I'd be like, what are you doing? But hey, if he gets it, hey, shout out to him. Just as long as it's not my team that gives it to him, I'll have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones, after this first year of whatever, he's going to have several years where he just continuously gets better before he can actually try to command that much.
And he was top 10 in a lot of categories this year, though. So I do give him his flowers. He did play a very good role this season. I don't think he overextended his welcome in New York. I don't think it's an issue of, fans don't like him. I think they all call him Danny Dimes. They still love him. They don't hate him. I think he understands that it's kind of just like Tennessee where, you have Derrick Henry and that's going to be your workhorse and that's going to be the guy you go after. The same reason with Saquon Barkley. And they're really just going to run through them. And Daniel just does his best to stay out of the way and to keep them in games. So, that's really where I'm at with it. Gonzo, what do you think about Daniel Jones?
I think the Giants signed him, but I wouldn't give him no 5 years, $200 million.
Right, like 190.
I'd try to go less than that. Maybe
Like,
what? Maybe around 140, 150.
I wouldn't even.
I think to Mike's credit, that under Dable, it was statistically Daniel Jones's best, best season.
But again, like I said,
300 yards twice.
Also,
like he didn't
also,
throw the ball a lot, and I think that's a part of the reason why it was one of his best seasons is because they really had him stay out of the way.
And with the Giants salary cap, if they give him that money, then you're going to have to franchise Barkley, and you're not really going to have money left to put weapons around them.
Right, Gonzo, not Gonzo. Stack, I do know where they are in the draft for the Giants.
I think they're around 17, 18.
Man, that's tough. Just for a first
they
round.
need to get some weapons on the outside at receiver.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think there's guys. I doubt he falls that far, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of those guys I think you could look at for the Giants to potentially be. I mean, I want him as a Bear with Justin Fields personally, but it's something that I think when you look at it for what it is.
Giants are picking 26th.
Do you think that they franchise tag Jones?
I think it's a bad idea, but it's also a bad idea to franchise tag a running back. You know what I mean? Like there's no real right way you can go about that. I think the proper way of doing it, in my opinion, if I had to tell you right now, and I don't know if I don't think I told Jay about it, but I told Frankie about it for sure. I think signing Jimmy Garoppolo and drafting a quarterback in the second round, like a Hendon Hooker, could potentially be the move for them. And 26 overall, you're probably not going to get Hendon towards the end of the second round. So I would take him 26 if you could. Let Hendon Hooker kind of be that guy who kind of sits there and obviously heals up, does his thing, and then you rock out with Jimmy Garoppolo for the 2024 or 2023 season. That's really where I'm at with it. I think you got to pay one of them. You can't pay both. You can't pay Daniel Jones $40 million, and then you can't extend Saquon Barkley. You just don't extend running backs in today's game. It just looks bad, especially having an ACL blown out. Like Barkley had a great season, but he also had a neck injury and he also had a back injury, and it's going to continue to pile up. So I would rock out with Hooker and Garoppolo. I've definitely said that sentence before years ago, but it's something I think is probably their best bet to move on from Daniel, cheaper wise.
Yeah, actually, hey, you were one off there, that guy. Dallas has 26. Giants have 25, but it's the same thing.
No, Dallas has 27. I'm looking at it right now.
And I would give you
you look at what I'm looking at.
You got to remember that Miami's picking number 21, but that pick is forfeited. But it still stays in that draft order, so the Giants still have the 26th pick, and the Dallas picks 27th. But when they get to Miami's pick at 21, it just skips it over like it didn't happen.
Well, I get. Well, that's okay. True.
So when the draft happens,
it's
still going to show Dallas picking 27th, even though they're actually picking 26th. The number's still not going to change. It's just going to show the order that Miami's pick got forfeited over.
Hey, the mock draft I'm looking at has Buffalo at 27, but I get what you're saying though. I understand what you're saying.
I got number 1.
If the Giants do what you're saying, Mike, that also frees up some money for them to get some weapons on the offensive side of the ball as well.
If you look at the mock draft right now, they have the Giants taking a wide receiver in both the first and second round.
And it looks like okay. So, Mike, do you think Chicago stays with number 1 and takes Will Anderson, or do they trade out of it?
They trade out.
Nah. Yeah, I think.
They're going to trade out of it to the Colts.
They trade out to 2 or 4.
Shut up, Gonzo. Nah, for real. I saw the owner of the Colts keeps tweeting about the Bears, and he's the weirdest guy I've ever seen in my life. But
he wants Bryce Young.
He wants to play. To me, it's one of those things where
him or Will Levis, and I hope they don't move up to 1 and take Levis. They do that.
I hope they take
Levis. Become a Bears fan. If
you're the Bears, the only team you trade with is Houston because you get number 2 and number 12 out of it.
You don't get
12. Huh?
You're not getting 12.
I think you will. If Houston wants Bryce Young bad enough, they will give the Bears 2 and 12.
When you're in a situation like that, though, and I think this is a very important conversation to have, is when you're sitting at number 2 and you're asking me to give you 2 and 12 when the guy at 1 is viewed as undersized and injury prone.
I'd rather have Stroud than Young.
Right. I'm not gonna sit here, and I know how Stat Guy feels about Ohio State quarterbacks, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are far apart. Like they are both did not do extremely well.
I don't want either one of them.
I actually see CJ Stroud going to Indy.
I'm not sold on either one.
I don't want either one of them.
But that is my point right there. Is this isn't a draft class of a Trevor Lawrence who's viewed as one of the biggest guys coming into the draft, or a Andrew Luck, or even a Joe Burrow, where you look at it for what it is and you're like, yo, this guy was dominant in college, and this guy won championships, and this guy was the guy that we all believe in and being the next face of the NFL. I don't see CJ or Bryce being that guy. So if you're the Houston Texans and you look at it for what it is, and you're like, listen, we have a lot of holes on this team. We have a new GM. We have a new front office. We have a new head coach. I have 2 and 12. I could get CJ Stroud and Jordan Addison, or I could get CJ Stroud and an offensive lineman, and I don't have to give anything up. Why would I give up not only 2 and 12?
Oh, sorry. I just got excited. He knows why I got excited, because I talked about it last night on Chris's program.
What the hell is wrong with Dustin, man?
Jay, who is the number 2 pick in the USFL draft today?
Oh, okay. I know who he's talking about now. The quarterback, Jay.
Yes, Lindsey Scott went number 2 in the USFL draft.
Hey, Jay.
I think Jay's
froze.
Hey, Jay. I was going to ask.
Get him out of here.
Lindsey Scott goes number 2 in the USFL draft. Like I said last night on your show, Chris.
I think that's the most excited I've ever seen Stat Guy get.
Because he's the one quarterback that I'm sold on. He's been the one quarterback that I've been sold on from day one that I think is the best quarterback prospect in this year's draft. I don't care if he went to an FCS school. Carson Wentz went to an FCS school. Trey Lance went to an FCS school, and they were both first-round picks.
You just named 2 guys. I give it to Stat Guy. Stat Guy's been behind Lindsey since last year.
Lindsey Scott had 90 touchdowns last year in one season, combined rushing and passing. I don't care what level of football you're playing at. That is not easy to do.
Oh, he's wet.
Now that he got drafted by the USFL, can he still enter the NFL draft?
Yes, after the USFL, you can enter the NFL draft, or you can be signed by an NFL team directly out of the USFL. So he might not even have to get drafted. If he balls out with Pittsburgh this year in the USFL and somebody wants to add him, they can add him without having to draft him. I don't know if you caught that, Jay, but Lindsey Scott went number 2 in the USFL draft.
It's the same thing.
He went number 2 to the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Yeah, I thought it was. I just wasn't 100% sure, Frankie. Yeah.
Does that pretty much
the USFL of like upcoming stars that didn't get drafted, or they're like stars that got cut from their teams and need to have that little momentum of showing the NFL people that they still got it. Kind of like Josh Gordon being with the Seattle Sea Dragons. Yeah, so like he's showing that the NFL he still got it, and hopefully potentially by next year he can get into a team. But that's also
so that guy is your
Frankie, are you in a tunnel?
Lindsey Scott will go to the USFL and then come over to the NFL after about a year there.
Yeah, that's what I said on Chris's show last night, that if Lindsey Scott goes to the USFL and has like a PJ Walker type of season when PJ Walker played in the XFL, he'll get picked up by an NFL franchise and not even have to go into the NFL draft.
Interesting.
He was viewed as a 5th or a 6th round pick right now, mainly because he came from a small school and because he's very similar in size to Bryce Young. But the guy still put up 91 total touchdowns last year. I don't care what level of football you're playing at, 91 touchdowns from one player is not easy.
You said,
but it's not impossible.
Clearly not, because he did it. Guy had over 5,000 yards. Guy had over almost 6,000 yards of offense on his own last year with 90 touchdowns.
Wow. What's going on with AJ Brown and the Eagles?
He basically told the Eagles that if you're not going to pay Jalen Hurts, then send me where you're sending Jalen Hurts.
Good.
Wait, say it again?
He told the Eagles that if you're not going to pay Jalen Hurts the big money, then send me where you're sending Jalen Hurts.
Good for him. That's the correct way to respond.
Yeah, sounds like Gronkowski to me.
No, I mean that's what you're supposed to say. That's your dog, that's your QB1 and your wide receiver one. So I mean that's the kind of camaraderie and that's the relationship that you want between your two guys. And I mean it might sound like he's not a team player and it might sound like you don't want to be here, but yeah, we just went to the fucking Super Bowl with this guy. So 110.
And let's be honest, not only did you go to the Super Bowl with this guy, but this guy outperformed a lot of people, even though he came away with the losing end of it. He still outperformed a hell of a lot of people. And I'm telling you, that dude's going to get a Super Bowl win at some point. He will.
And I think he outperformed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl as well.
I said that in the beginning, and they looked at me sideways.
Oh, yeah. I think
there's a lot of good players that have been drafted in the USFL draft today.
Here comes Dustin with the USFL.
I'm watching it right now. I'm actually watching it right now. There's a lot of good players that have been drafted in this draft already. That's really going to make things interesting with the regular NFL draft now because Tyler Scott, who was a wide receiver out of Cincinnati, was predicted to go in the third round. He went number 5 overall to the New Orleans Breakers.
But
it's going to be make things interesting on draft night for some of these people because Tanner Morgan went number 8 overall, the quarterback out of Minnesota. Chase Bryce out of Appalachian State was a first-round pick. Adrian Martinez out of Kansas State was a second-round pick. All these quarterbacks were kind of in that 4th through 6th round range, and now all of a sudden they're going to the USFL.
The USFL season starts. Does it start before the NFL draft?
The week before the NFL draft is when the USFL season starts.
It don't matter, that guy. The Generals don't got a first-round pick.
Who?
The Generals don't got a first-round pick.
Well, the Generals got Adrian Martinez in the second round with their first pick. And then the Generals turned around and got J.J. Holman, wide receiver out of Tennessee State, their second pick in round 3. And then the Generals got Victor Jones, defensive end out of Akron, who had 15 sacks this year in round 4. Who else did they give you? They got Deshaun Warren, cornerback out of Jackson State, who was actually one of the leaders in the country with 10 interceptions last year. In round 5, and then round 8, round 6, they're about to pick right now.
All right, let's get the final thoughts for today.
My final thoughts is I'm thinking about Tony Gonzalez.
There's something wrong with you, man.
I'm sure he's in there in the living room cracking up. Mike, you got any final thoughts?
I am also thinking about Tony Gonzalez.
Stat guy.
Lindsey Scott for USFL MVP, and then he will be on an NFL roster in the upcoming season.
Jay McLovin.
2 final thoughts. Number 1 is my money is on Scrappy to take out Pablo in the Senior Chihuahua Bowl.
As long as they don't take out my equipment, we'll be all right.
I'm gonna go to Chipotle today. That's my final.
My second thought is that tonight, I think Pablo and Scrappy can take out Tony while he's sleeping.
Oh my god!
I think they look at Tony as the midnight snack.
Okay.
And my last and final thought.
You said two.
Hey, you know what? I can say what I want, sir. I can say
Get out of here. Get out of here. Bullshit.
You just sit there and look pretty and eat your tostada. Hold on a minute.
Hey, what's wrong with the tostada?
What's wrong with the
tostada, man?
So fucking racist.
We're definitely getting him out of here now.
Get him out of here.
Oh, by the way, have Mike and Chris and Frankie, have you ever seen the show Last Chance U?
Yeah.
That's where Lindsey Scott.
Hold on. My last thought, though, seriously, was I think Joker. It looks like this guy. I think he's got to be the front runner for MVP. And if he gets a 3rd consecutive MVP, holy crap! Why are we talking about Giannis so damn much?
Get him out of here right now.
No, it's not getting him out of here. It's the truth.
Get him out, Frank.
Dustin, what you say about Lindsey Scott?
You know why? You know what's crazy? Hold on, Dustin, because I have one comment I'd like to say, and it's honestly, it's probably the most unbiased thing I've ever said. Russell Westbrook did the same thing Jokic did for half a decade, and nobody did a backflip over it. Jokic does it in an unathletic way, eating Doritos at halftime and smoking cigarettes, and everyone flips shit saying he should be a 3-time MVP. Get him out of here, Frank.
He is gonna be he will be.
You know what? You know what? That's a good point. That's a really good point. Get him out of here for that. That's crazy.
Get him out.
Get him out of here.
Insane.
Russell Westbrook averages a triple-double, and it's like,
yeah, hold on. Russell field goal percentage is 20.
Russell Westbrook averages a triple-double for 5 years.
Laws.
For 5 years at 6'3", he averages a triple-double. Jokic is 7 foot. Everyone's
but
like,
what was his field goal percentage? Please tell me that.
A bucket, an MVP, actually winning playoff series, a bucket.
This is the same guy that nobody wants on their team right now.
The same guy that you didn't know who Jokic was 3 years ago.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. You take that back, sir. Sir, you take that back. You take it back right now.
Where's he from?
These nuts in your mouth.
Right, exactly. Get him out of here.
All right, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Oh, whoa. Get him out of here. What is going on today?
Hey, stat guy, look at me. He's looking at me funny, Frankie. Get him the fuck out of here. And get me out of here, too.
No, I wasn't done yet.
Dustin, I guess it's just me and you. We're more professional.
Yeah, I said if you've ever seen the show Last Chance U,
where'd Frankie go?
That if you've ever seen the show Last Chance U, that's where Lindsey Scott became known at before he went to college. The actual incarnate word.
I'll watch that show, son.
Well, and it's interesting though. Like you look at Lindsey Scott, man. Like you said, Dustin. I mean, look at Purdy. The guy was like damn near dead last. Look what he did. I mean, so to say that Lindsey Scott can't do the same thing in the NFL, I mean, it's not unheard of, right?
He wasn't damn near dead last. He was dead last.
Well, okay. So you see what I'm saying, right? So I mean, hell, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell.
My final thought. Make sure you go check out the new ASAP mobile app on Android. You can find it at the Google Play Store, Roku, Amazon. I actually checked it out yesterday. I think it's pretty cool. Works pretty good, but pretty easy to find the different shows on there. Mike,
that just proves that Chris got an Android.
Yeah, I got an Android.
I got an Android.
Do you know how often, like, when they'll be putting the shows on there?
It's a great question and a horrible person to ask. No idea.
You know what they say? Communists have Androids. Americans have Apple.
Oh, why?
Get him out of here.
I guess I'm a damn communist then, Jay, because I will never use an Apple.
Commie dog. Let's get him out of here.
I've never had an Apple. I've always had Android. But no. Appreciate everybody watching today. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 with another episode of the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. Thanks to Frankie, Mike Hughes, Stat Guy, and Jay McLevin for joining today. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day.